Why did they betray me that way? You start asking yourself, why did I choose this?
Right. What is it within me? What's my part that put me in this position? And how do I not do it again?
Right.
What do I
And
need to
then
feel that will not attract this kind of an experience?
that's right. How do I stop judging everybody else for making similar mistakes? Because that's why I'm going to continue to make the same ones.
What have you judged the most in your life? What are you the most judgmental of? I'm going to say I am totally not in a point where I don't judge. I am not awoke. I'm not spiritually enlightened. I'm not there yet. I don't think, if that's our criteria. So I'm just throwing myself out there vulnerably to say, I got plenty of things I judge. So I'm just curious. Do you
That
have
means
things you
that,
judge?
it's so funny. That's the reluctant, the reluctant spiritualist who would say something like what you just said. I think Alan Watts always says, all of us should be able to admit that we're rascals.
Rascals, absolutely, totally. It's actually like, yeah, and funny enough, he actually says like you should, that's a good thing to be able to say you're a rascal.
Yeah, the only people you should be afraid of are the people that say they're totally good,
Yeah, exactly.
because those are the ones that are going to probably do some of the worst things without even knowing that they're doing it, because they're not even conscious of it.
Yeah,
We all have dark shadows. Everybody does. There's
yeah.
no one that doesn't. And so this idea that we have to, I think the harshest thing I judged was myself.
In what ways?
I was always striving, it's like I compare it to like a block of cheese. It's a bad analogy. I can't think of a better one. But so
So
let's say I have a block of cheese, right? This is,
uh-huh.
some cheese, cheddar cheese. And I'm going to take a knife and I'm going to cut, right? Each time, let's say this corner was embarrassing to me, and I derived a lot of shame as a result of this edge and corner because I hurt another little kid when I was 3 years old. So I'm going to cut this corner off. So if I cut this corner off, I'm going to wait for the next time. But I've also now formed two other corners, right? While I've cut the corner off.
Oh yeah.
And then something else happens. I disobey my parents. So I cut off another corner because I don't want to feel ashamed again, and I don't want to get punished again. And then I cut another corner off because I did something bad. I stole some candy out of a store. And that brought me shame. And every time I did it, I'm like, I don't want to associate with that thing. I'm going to blame it on somebody else. I'm going to say, just like even in the Garden of Eden, right? Adam and Eve, God comes and says, well, Adam, what are you doing? It's like, oh, the woman that thou gavest me and commanded I remain with her, she gave me of the fruit of the tree of knowledge of good and evil, which, by the way, is duality. And I did eat.
Yeah.
And then, Eve, what hast thou done? Oh, the serpent beguiled me, and I did eat. The first thing we want to do whenever we feel shame is blame someone else, right? So I'm going to cut off another edge. I keep cutting off edges until at 45 years old, I'm a thin pillar of cheese. And all the rest of it, I've pushed off of me, and I've said, I want nothing to do with these things. That's not who I am. I am good. I don't do anything wrong, right? I keep striving for excellence in the pursuit of even better happiness, and yet everything feels very, very empty. And yes, while I achieve some degree of fleeting success, it's not really lasting success because I feel like I'm caught on some crazy hamster wheel. And where does it ever end? And everyone around me should be striving in the same way that I have. Why can't they just strive and become the single pillar of cheese? And then at a certain point, you go through a crisis. And that crisis then makes you realize that all this stuff that I'd cut off from me and separated from myself is me. And the only solution is to learn to accept all those things were me from the very beginning.
Mm-hmm. And that is where the phoenix comes in, burns you to the ground where all the cheese pieces are lying. You then become a pool of cheese. It all unites again. I mean, this is literally supposed to be inspired by the Phoenix Rising. This as well. And then you become the pool of cheese, reorganized, alchemized back into itself again. Start over.
Yeah. And so it's funny because I remember when
Become
I was
whole.
really studying
Whole
alchemy,
cheese.
the whole, you're back to the whole cheese
Holy
now.
cheese.
You're back to the whole cheese. So the thing is that I was studying alchemy, And of course, fundamental aspect of alchemy is you start with nigredo, then albedo, which is represented by the crow, and then the swan, and then it goes to a peacock, and then peacock to a pelican, which represents sacrifice and the marriage of the red king and the white queen. And it's meeting the shadow and falling in love with that shadow aspect of yourself. So you can alchemize into this phoenix. And the phoenix is the final stage of this. And I remember the day I had the realization, and I was teaching it on Resonance Academy, and I had to stop in this office because my time for my class was there. I was there for work, and I went over to, I was in Scottsdale, and I went to one of the offices that I was in. I said, can I use this office so I could teach this class? So it's all online. And I realized at that moment that I was teaching about the phoenix while I was in Phoenix, and that the shadow of the phoenix is the thunderbird. In alchemy referred to as the Aquila. And then I realized, wait, I went to MBA school at Thunderbird in Phoenix. And all of these things that I thought were just coincidences were part of a grand plan that was perfectly designed and customized for exactly the experience that I wanted and that I needed.
I had a clothing line called Warrior, and my logo was a Thunderbird.
There you go. See, and here you are, you're representing, I'm interested to see, I could see the bird in that, actually. Now that you move your head a little bit, I could actually see the bird. You know what's nuts is that on the side, and I have never published any of this, but on the west outside wall of the Great Pyramid, on each of the walls, on each of the faces of the Great Pyramid, you can actually find things that should not be there, right? There's a clear design on the south wall, on the outside, of an omega, like legit omega symbol, and a snake coming down the side from the top down. And there's a snake going up on the other side that I see very clearly.
Can we go climb the Great Pyramid? Can you work that out?
You know, I can easily get up to the original entrance, which is a ways up, but getting the climbing up to the Great Pyramid, oh, that's tough. The reason it's tough, I tell you what we can do. We can do one of those like parasailing flights and go right over the top of it and like hover on top of it for a little while. They let you do that.
That's pretty cool.
And you can actually see the stuff. There's like writing up on the top and everything. It's pretty cool. And you can do it on top of all three pyramids. So I might do that my next trip to Egypt, right? Where you fly on one of these things. Pretty cool. Pretty bitchin'. But the point is, on the west wall of the outside of the Great Pyramid is almost identical shape. I'll send you the picture to what's behind you. Now, you could say, but the pyramid was covered in casing stones. Those things aren't supposed to be there. Well, there's clear indentations and you will see it. And as we get better and better at starting to perceive patterns in our life, we start to perceive patterns in the world around us better too. And those patterns are the clues to entering higher doorways of awareness. Right. The phoenix is on the west wall, and it looks almost identical to the picture behind you, which is reminding me of something there. Oh yeah, it's pretty freaky. It's almost identical to that. And it almost has a head like that phoenix does that looks almost like the shape of a condor. So, and I have, of course, this phoenix behind me that I sculpted at the same time that I was going through all of this. And
you sculpted that?
Yeah.
What don't you do?
I don't do a lot of things. I don't do a lot of things, but I do sculpt, and I like that because for me, that was like a form of metallurgy, of alchemy. You know, you don't have to turn lead into gold. You just have to understand that lead is the stuff that we've been judging negatively that can be transmuted into the gold of our new higher awareness.
Oh, yeah. Oh, sure. I see. Yeah. Like what makes gold the good one?
Exactly.
Perception.
It's all perception. You
I
see,
think about that all the time. I see like granite rocks and marble and things like that when you're hiking, and I'm just like, you know, or then you think of a diamond, and or you see an opal versus clear quartz, and I'm like, who decided certain things were going to be so valuable?
Well, diamonds, you know that story, right? Diamonds.
Yeah, De Beers.
De Beers, right? And it's funny because the word De Beer is a very important word that represented the Holy of Holies in Solomon's temple.
Hmm.
The Divirim is what it's called, the Divirim. It's the Holy of Holies, it's the altar. And it means the word or the truth. The truth. Now, the truth about De Beers, which is kind of funny, is that they have a cartel on diamonds to keep the price of diamonds artificially high.
Yeah.
They keep all of this high valuable diamond stuff in their inventory.
Supply low, demand high.
Yes. To keep the demand very, very high. It's what cartels always do. And I found it funny that that is the truth. That what we think is scarce is not really scarce. I mean, you could look at every natural resource on the planet and you could say, well, what's the most important natural resource on the planet to life? Well, it's probably clean water, I would guess, right? Clean water. But wait, from space, we look like a blue dot because we're covered with water.
Mm-hmm.
And
why do we have to pay for it? Can't
yeah,
I mean, when you're out in the ocean, a submarine or a ship, like they have like water purification